Buying land. It's a necessary step towards building your shipping container home, but it could quickly cost you many thousands more dollars just because of realtor commission fees, closing costs, and much more. But what if I told you you can save thousands of dollars by bypassing the realtors and the big MLS aggregation sites like Zillow and instead go straight to the landowners using a publicly accessible yet mostly unknown method? Well, the good news is that I myself saved thousands of dollars on the land that I purchased using this fairly unknown, unconventional method, which I'll be revealing here for you guys today. Because as I like to say, anything is possible when you think outside the container. Building my own shipping container home. Join me on my journey from construction to completion of my mortgage-free home on a homestead. So there I was, handwriting over 100 letters, stamped and addressed to various landowners from the county I'm moving to. Time consuming? Yes. Tedious? Sure. But ultimately worth it? 100% absolutely. But let's back up a bit. Of all the aspects so far that I've gone through in building my own shipping container home, researching, looking for, and ultimately buying land has been one of the most challenging so far. Now, in all fairness, I still haven't even started building the container home yet, so that could still turn out to be the most challenging part. If you'd like to see my upcoming video on that topic, click the subscribe button below and hit the bell so you're notified when I post it. Still, so far, buying land has had the most ups and downs. Thankfully though, the ups and downs ultimately paid off as I saved at least a few $1,000s on the land I purchased, and it's all thanks to an unconventional method I'm going to share with you today. Step 1. Confirm with your county. Imagine spending thousands of dollars on your own piece of land, only to find out, before you even get started building, that the county you bought the land in doesn't even allow you to build a shipping container home on the land. As obvious as it may seem, this is a step that I think a lot of people have actually overlooked. It never ceases to amaze me how you can spend so much money on a piece of land only to find out you don't even have permission to put containers on them or build a certain type of house. But anyways, the first and most important step I took when buying my land was contacting the county and asking them straight up, do you allow shipping container homes and homesteading, including growing food and raising some farm animals? I quickly learned that in my particular county, different areas had different zonings. While some areas were zoned as, quote, rural residential, meaning you could build a home and engage in some basic homesteading activities, other areas in the same county were zoned as RG and prohibit gardening, farm animals, etc. So obviously, before you can even consider buying land, you need to make sure the local government even allows you to do what you want to do. A great place to start is to contact the county's building department. They should be able to answer all your permitting and zoning questions. Step 2. MLS Sites. To use or not to use. So now that you've found your county, you need to find the land. Most people will use the MLS sites. MLS stands for Multiple Listing Services like Zillow and Realtor.com to find land for sale through a realtor or by owner. And although these sites like Zillow and Realtor have their uses, the moment you get a realtor involved, you've got to pay their commission fees, usually around 5 to 6% of the purchase price. If you're buying a piece of land for, say, $10,000, the realtor fee alone will definitely cost you. And yes, although you can search these sites for the for sale by owner listings, which won't include the realtor fee, there could be an even bigger setback to worry about: a lack of available land to choose from. You see, here's what happened to me. Since I'm looking to buy land in a more rural area so I can do homesteading, naturally it meant that the properties I'm looking for are going to be in less populated areas, further away from cities. Now, I'm no expert in real estate, but I'm going to take a leap and assume that the more isolated the land you're looking for, the less options you're going to find for purchase that are going to suit your needs. And indeed, that's exactly what happened in my experience. You'll find fewer listings out in the more rural areas, and you'll find even fewer that are strictly for sale by owner with no realtor involved. Simply put, I quickly realized that there was a bit of a lack of land buying opportunities in these more rural areas. No opportunities, no land. And so that's the other downside to the MLS sites. You may not find the best deal you're looking for, and for that matter, just because a piece of vacant land isn't listed on Zillow doesn't mean the landowner isn't interested in selling. Which takes us to step number 3. Step 3. GIS Maps and Tax Maps. If you're not using the popular MLS websites, how then do you find land? Well, believe it or not, most counties in the United States, and probably internationally as well, they actually have publicly accessible online sites that you can go to where you can actually click on every lot of land that's publicly listed, and it's basically every piece of land, because there, even ones that are currently owned by a private owner are still listed in the county, and I believe it's for tax purposes. You can click on each lot of land. You can get detailed information on who owns the land, what their mailing address is, where to contact them, all this great information, and it's right there at your fingertips. These are called GIS maps. They're also known as tax maps. Has the light bulb gone off in your head yet? In essence, these GIS and tax maps are an easy-to-use database, like a giant crystal ball giving you invaluable access to who's got your ideal piece of property. And if that wasn't awesome enough, the names and mailing addresses of the landowners are also listed, allowing you to send a letter in the mail asking them if they're interested in selling. Now, let me say straight up here, okay guys? This method actually works. Many other people have attested to it, but I can say from my own personal experience that it worked for me. I'm currently in the process of closing on a piece of land that I found through this method, and I'm saving what I'm estimating many thousands of dollars compared to all the other listings that are online right now for a similar piece of land. And all I did was contact the landowner through this method, and for whatever reason, he saw my letter and he was interested. And so we're in the process of closing, and so I can personally attest to this method working and saving lots of money in the process. And so here's how I did it. Step 4. Find the right properties for you. So once you got your county's GIS map opened up, it's time to start looking for properties that suit your needs. Things to consider include zoning, nearest electrical utilities, whether you want to live totally isolated in the middle of nowhere or a short drive from the nearest town, and much more. It all depends on your needs. Once you've found a good area, click on a lot of land, which are divided by lot lines on screen like these so you can see additional information. Now, there's a few key details here you want to look out for which will help you determine if the land is right for you. First, determine if the landowner's property address is the same or different from their mailing address. Now, this is an extremely important step. If the address that's listed on the property that you'd like to buy is the same as the contact mailing address for the property owner, then there's a really good chance they're not interested in selling, because it indicates that they actually are still living on the property. Your odds of finding someone willing to sell are much higher if they don't currently live on the land and have a mailing address at a separate location, which is probably their primary residence. So if their mailing address is the same as the land's property address, discard and move on to the next lot. Second, take a look at the current estimated value of the property. If you've got a budget of, say, $5,000, but the property's estimated value is $15,000, then you might want to look for something else. From my understanding, the current estimated value listed on these maps are determined by the county and are just that, estimates. The price could be higher or lower, though they're usually lower than the prices listed on MLS sites. Third, take a look at when the land was last sold. If it was only sold a few months ago, I personally decided to assume that whoever bought it isn't already looking to sell it, so I ignored these. Fourth, check the sales history of the land. If the last sale was for an unusually high price, then it could be the owner was in a bidding war or may have purchased the land years ago when the market was much higher. I decided to avoid these properties under the assumption the owners weren't looking to only make a fraction back on their original investment. And so if all the information looks right on your chosen piece of land, then go ahead and open up a Word document and write down the essential information about this plot of land. The reason I suggest to open up a Word document is because you're going to start compiling a very large list of different landowners and properties that look good based on your needs. I personally ended up mailing just over 100 letters in order to get the perfect piece of land for my needs. But we'll get more into mailing letters in just a little bit. For me, I chose to write down the following key details: the landowner's first and last name, the address of the property I'm interested in buying, the owner's personal mailing address where I can contact them, and the parcel PIN number. And now, repeat. Since you will need to be mailing these letters out, you may want to start with a small list, maybe 10 or 20 letters, to get a feel for the process and what it's like to get a call from a landowner. If you don't find the ideal property in the first batch, go back to the GIS Maps or Tax Maps and find some more land. Step 5. Mailing letters. Ah yes, mailing letters. It's definitely the most time-consuming, hands-on part of this method, but I actually enjoyed it. This is actual footage of me handwriting the letters. It takes a few hours to compile the list of landowners and handwrite their names and addresses on the envelopes, but believe me, it's worth it. This method saved me at least a few $1,000s on the cost of land compared to all the other listings on MLS sites. My method for mailing letters was simple. First, create a template letter that you'll be sending out to all landowners. This is what I wrote in my letters. Hi, name of landowner. My name is, insert your name, and I am writing in regards to a property located at, address of land you want to buy. I'm currently searching for land to purchase and I'm considering properties over in city/county where land is located. I found your property on name of county land is located in's online property appraiser maps located here. Place URL link to the county's GIS/tax map. As I stated above, I am interested in buying land and wanted to know if you are interested in selling your land to me. I understand this letter might seem random and out of nowhere to you, but I figured I would reach out and ask just in case you were hoping to sell. To be fully open with you, I am writing to you through this method because I may be able to get a better deal on land by reaching out directly to you, the owner, instead of going through traditional methods, excluding the middleman and any extra costs that affect both the buyer and the seller. In the chance that you are interested in selling your land, I would love to discuss it further with you. I want to move out to a more rural area and set up a nice homesteading life where I will care for the land and use it to build a home, grow some food, and own a few chickens and goats too. If you are interested in discussing this further with me, please feel free to contact me at any of the methods below. And then you can add your phone number, your text, and your email address. Thank you again for your time. And then end it with your name. And so I basically just plugged in the name and address for each plot of land that I was mailing a letter to, and then just save each one as a separate Word document because you'll be printing these out later when you mail them. Next, get your envelopes and a pen. Handwrite your name and address, and the name and address of whoever you're sending it to on the outside of the envelope. This step is critical. You don't want your envelope to look like machine-printed automated spam in the mail. Handwriting letters increases the odds of someone opening the letter and reading it, since it seems like it came from an actual person. I know, writing them by hand is a lot more time-consuming, but it's not that bad and I really think it makes an impression. From here, I just stamped, printed the letters, sealed the envelopes, and dropped them off at the post office. And that's it. In the next step, let's move on to what to expect once you've mailed your letters. Step 6. Wait patiently. And so it ended up taking about 1 week before I got my first response to the first batch of letters I sent out. As you can imagine, it was a pretty exciting moment. And let me just say right off the bat, I never got a single response from somebody who was angry or annoyed that I dared contact them and send them a letter in the mail. Nobody was ever bothered or angry, not even impolite. Everybody was super nice and open and willing to help and offer suggestions, so don't be shy. Of the 100 or so letters I sent out, I received about 10 phone calls. Only one person responded via email, and they were a real estate organization that owned the land. Some phone calls were pretty short, mostly to inform me that they weren't selling, but knew of other people in the area who were. There were also about 4 leads that went nowhere. People who teased me with the potential to sell but eventually declined, either because my offer was too low or because they simply stopped responding to my calls. And so, in the end, after mailing all these letters out, I had 2 major solid leads. 2 people, one of them ended up falling through, didn't happen, but finally I was left with the last guy, and I was very happy with the type of land, the conditions, and the deal that we eventually struck. Step 7, tips for negotiating. You know, when it comes to negotiating for the price of land, I'll probably do a video later on to go more in depth on that topic. As always, subscribe down below and hit the bell so you'll be notified when that video comes out. One of the most important lessons I learned was that the best way to have power during a negotiation is to have tons of options. If you only have one interested seller, it creates a sense of scarcity inside of you where you're willing to settle for a much higher price than you'd like because you have no other options. On the other hand, if you have 2 or 3 or 5 interested sellers, the moment one of them demands a price too high, you can literally just tell him or her you have other offers on the table. The ability to walk away from a deal would have been the ultimate liberator for me. Unfortunately, in the end, I only had 1 seller, and although I was happy with the price I got, I'm pretty sure I could have negotiated a little lower. But since I only had 1 option to go with, my fear of not finding another willing seller made me less of a shark. So a piece of advice: if you send out 100 letters and you only get 1 or 2 solid leads, consider sending out more letters so you feel more in control during negotiations. And so that is it for buying land. I'm very proud and happy that this somewhat unconventional method that I used ended up working out for me. I'm very convinced I saved many thousands of dollars compared to using the big MLS sites, and definitely compared to using a realtor. It takes a little bit of effort, takes a little bit of time, but in the end it's absolutely worth it, and it just makes me feel good to know that it ended up working out even though I used an unconventional method. So again, thank you guys so much for tuning in for this episode of Think Outside the Container. The journey continues. We'll be uploading more videos every week on how this process unfolds. So be sure to hit the subscribe button down below, smash the little bell icon so you're notified when I upload again. And as always guys, I have a Patreon account if you guys would like to support my journey and to support more videos documenting the entire process of building my own shipping container home. There's also special perks you get when you sign up: live stream Q&A sessions, free ebooks, and merchandise, all types of cool stuff. So again, the link to all that stuff is right down there in the description, guys. Thank you again, and remember, anything is possible when you think outside the container.